This is the North Carolina Food and Beverage Podcast. Thank you for listening, subscribing, and hitting subscribe on your friend's phone without them knowing. Coming to you from the kitchen studios in downtown Raleigh. This episode is sponsored in part by Spot On, tech that helps your business grow. Request a demo at spoton.com. And Joe Van Gogh Coffee, serving the community from seed to cup, taking particular care at every step to honor the bean. And now, they can't cook and they don't clean, but they love to tell you how it's done. It's Max Trujillo and Matthew Weiss.
Hello, and thank you for listening to the North Carolina Food and Beverage Podcast. I am your co-host, Max Trujillo.
And I am your co-host, Matthew Weiss. And today in studio, we have Le Chef, c'est très magnifique. Yes, he is the chef of Saint Jacques here in Raleigh, one of a French restaurant institution, one Chef Kyle Teears.
Hello.
Bienvenue. Yeah,
Welcome.
great to be here.
It's good to have you in studio, man.
Yeah.
But first, before we get started, look at this, like we want to be all grown up and everything. For one, we have some cameras in the room, and we're going to try doing a little video recording. We don't know if this one will actually make it to air or not, but new fun things coming for the old NCF&B podcast, and production value top-notch with what we're doing here, thanks to our production assistant over here, Miss Castle.
Look for us on YouTube or Facebook Live. More information about that later.
Yeah, we're going to try to do some live shows, some video shows. You can see our beautiful faces and see our fantastic reactions when we hear truth bombs be told by all of these fantastic producers and educators and creators of the food and beverage industry in North Carolina. But first, coming up, make sure that you write a review or tell your friend, or do both. Write a review like on iTunes or in Spotify or wherever you listen to your podcast. And who knows, if we get the review that we want to hear, we might read your review on our show. Because
shout you out.
Why not? Yeah, we love the support. We love that we do have support. So let us hear it from y'all. And coming up, before we get to our one-on-three with Chef Kyle Teears, bandanas be damned. We also are going to have Chef Dean Neff of Seabird from Wilmington coming up soon. Also, Chef Ashley Fleming of the Blue Jay Bistro in Littleton, North Carolina. That's a very interesting up-and-coming small town. And then Big Spoon Roasters. You've probably seen them at your favorite places to buy consumer packaged goods. And then we're going to do some bee talk with Queen's Orders Honey, Justin Orders in Charlotte, North Carolina. Chef Saif Rahman of Vidrio is coming up. And Nick Singh of the Nomad in Hillsborough and also the Viceroy in Durham. But now, we're here in studio.
Yeah. All right, Chef. So we've worked together recently. We did a little fun wine dinner at Saint Jacques. And you strike me as a chef who just is like, yeah, let's get you done. Let's be creative, but let's like make everything happen. And I'll just give a little insight behind baseball. We were trying to figure out the pairing, and I was like, dude, I really love escargot, and it's just like a magical pairing with, white burgundy. And you were like, that's done. That like within seconds, that's a no-brainer. In a very simple way, without being like cliche, but is that your style as a chef?
I mean, yeah, kind of, because like you can plan as much as you want, but pretty much at the end of the day or beginning of the shift, something's going to happen. And so I feel like you need to be able to like roll with the punches and also allow other people, especially my kitchen, to be creative. So just because it's not my idea doesn't mean it's a bad idea. Yeah. So pretty much is how I operate as a chef. Someone can come up with a good idea. It's like, yeah, let's run with that. You know? There's no reason to stifle it just because I didn't come up with it,
You hear that, Max?
What's that? Oh, no, I wasn't paying attention. Probably should have been at this point.
He's like, I'm not talking, I'm not listening.
What was that? Do whatever I say, not as I do?
Pretty much.
But you're going with, like, you mean you're listening to your people, you're taking advice from them, you're actually using teamwork as a tool in your tool belt?
Yeah, not only just using teamwork, but also like allowing them to, flourish where they're talented or where they're good at. So my sous chef, Casey, I gave him 2 brunches to do. We had to do Easter and Mother's Day. And I hate brunch. I fucking hate it. So I was like, I'm not doing it. I'm going to give it to my sous chef. And it was like, well, does he know how to do it? I'm like, we're going to find out,
Yeah.
So there was a little bit of coaching there, but, he pulled it off, brilliantly. And, we were extremely busy and, the product was fantastic. So there's no reason to, again, put someone down or make sure they, or make it so they can't do something when, they're fully capable of.
Well, also, if it was shitty, you could just say, "Oh, that was my sous chef," and I couldn't do it. But if it was good, then you'd be like, "Yeah, I coached him on it."
Oh, I definitely
trained him well.
I definitely put his name on the menu. No, for sure.
Okay, so before we even get into your background, I just want to hear a little bit about Saint Jacques because we're friends with the former chef Serge Falcoz-Vignier, who was he was there for what, like 6-7 years, a long time.
It is really good. Sorry, Chef. We know. We love you. We shared a boat trip out to, if anyone who's been listening to the show for a while, we went out on a boat for blue crab or soft shell crab.
No, blue crabs.
Soft shell crabs. It was all. They're blue and soft.
They're the same thing, except for when are they shedding?
Yeah.
Oh, there you go.
Exactly. But we were getting the soft shell crabs. It was that time of season around May in 2018, and we had Chef Bill Hartley and Chef James Clark, and we got on a boat. And all of us, it was packed. It was 2 boats. We saw so much stuff.
We drove out to the Outer Banks for an afternoon, and we picked Serge up at St. Jacques at like 3 or 4 in the morning.
Well, the cool part was after our whole experience was over, we actually went back to said Saint Jacques because Matt and I were invited to a very fancy private party where we needed to show up kind of potluck style with something cool. And so we pretended that we made a blue crab
it was like
dip.
a crab dip that Serge
made.
Said like, all right, come in here. I'll throw it together. It would be good.
It was good. And so he did that for us, and it was really awesome and went above and beyond. So we've spent time in your kitchen, and it's beautiful. We've also spent time dining at your space back in the old days. So it's a really great little place. If you don't know, if you live in the Raleigh area, it's like North Raleigh, kind of in the burbs, sort of in a sleepy little, as everything is in North Raleigh, it's in a strip mall. That's just the way things are developed out there. So don't let that fool you. This is a amazing fine dining, traditional like French cuisine restaurant. Yeah, at least from my perspective.
But there was a chef in between you guys. But like, what do you walk in there and be like, oh, there obviously is a certain expectation, right? You're going to execute French food, you know that. But is there an expectation where it's like Serge had classics and I have to execute those classics?
I mean, kind of, but not really. So like when I took over there, there was, Serge who was established. But for me, it's not only me trying to put my name on something, but also respecting the previous chef. So I don't want to go in there and just do his dishes. He left. He has his own place. He has a new, concept. So if I were to go in there and just continue to do what he was doing, well, I feel like that's disrespectful to another chef. And I would like that done when I leave a place, is for the new chef to come in and do his own thing. So there was the expectation and the me trying to perform at that level for what the guests expect, but not the dishes themselves. No.
Yeah. Okay. And so
doing French cuisine, it's kind of the center of the universe when you come to like, what you're talking
it's just
about.
Italian food with butter.
Yeah, exactly. A little less pasta.
And less noodles.
Yeah, less oil and
butter. That's it. You heard it here first.
That's it.
Matt Weiss summed up
Yes, I'm a
French
culinary
cuisine.
expert.
But, for one, anybody that goes to culinary school is going to be at some point trained in French cuisine because it is like the fundamental of the cuisine, right? In a sense. But to then truly understand it and to get to that next level, I would say it's how I view playing the bass. Playing the bass, when you first pick it up, it's got big strings and frets, and you can easily play any of Matt's favorite U2 songs, doom 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 doom, and then you pretty much could go top 40 for the next 30 years of your life doing that. But then
Just
if you
add
want
in a little percussion.
some great percussion. But if you want to like master the bass and like learn the slapping of the bass, a little Victor Wooten style, or like crazy finger tap or finger movements like Geddy Lee of Rush, that's a lifelong journey to figure out how to craft proper base technique. So I parallel that as like everyone knows, a roasted chicken and some mashed potatoes or roasted potatoes, that's French. It's like, sure. But then there's so much that goes deeper into understanding the nuance and the real true technique of French cuisine. So how did you decide to be so bold? You're a young guy, and it's not like you grew up. I don't think you grew up in France.
I sure didn't.
Right.
I've got French family, but no, I did not grow up in French.
Yeah.
We learned that you have a uncle that plays in a French band?
Yes. Yeah. DDA.
DDA. Oh.
DDA Morel. Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Bass? Is it bass he's playing?
No, percussionist.
Damn it, percussionist.
Yeah, right? That's why he knows. That's why he's an expert.
So, but what made you so bold as to say, I'm gonna take over and work at a French bistro and just, throw it down?
What's life without a little challenge, right? I mean, so, I had, previously was at, Whiskey Kitchen, and I love, North Carolina food and that, that kind of Southern staple. And, obviously I went to culinary school, so I was classically French trained. But it wasn't something I had done for many, many years. So it was kind of like, let's dust off some of these old cookbooks. Let's, educate and restudy some of these, techniques and things like that. And
Sure.
Let's also make sure, I put, my spin and, my feel, onto the dishes. So it was kind of a natural next step. Was like, I need something new and something challenging. And, I haven't done this in a while. So, let's have at it.
And you came to Raleigh for that job at Whiskey Kitchen, is that right?
Yeah. So, before I moved here, I was, moving here to try to open up my own spot. And I had 3 job offers. One was at Whiskey Kitchen, and after interviewing and staging at the other places, I decided that Whiskey Kitchen was going to be the best fit for me. So I was like, yeah, let's do that.
So the idea was to come to Raleigh, start your own restaurant, but like just learn the lay of the land first.
Yeah. I was already planning on working anywhere for a couple of years. While what I envisioned was being developed, but. That didn't work out, but yeah, I was like, going to work and, figure out the city and,
well, it hasn't worked out yet.
Right.
But you're still in those few years. I mean, have you been here 4 years total?
Coming on 5 years, something like that. Yeah.
And why Raleigh? Did you grow up in Asheville?
No, I went to school out there and lived there for quite some time. But Raleigh, because I had traveled the Southeast, visited a couple, cities and places and towns and stuff like that to open up my own place. And even though I had been in the state for 12, 13 years, I had never actually been to Raleigh. So I was like, let's go check out Raleigh. And I was like, okay, it's not as scary as I thought. I grew up, country is, is it,
You can say country as fuck.
Yeah, country as fuck.
My pearls.
So I was, kind of like timid of big town, cities. And I came here, I was like, it's not a city, it's a big town. And so that's what I was like, I could live here. There's trees everywhere, there's nice parks, and, it's not super congested. So, and then, that was like 4 or 5 years ago. And
let's talk about Whiskey Kitchen for a moment. So for one, Matt and I did a 2-part series on Whiskey Kitchen way back in the day, talking to the Thors and Aaron and Johnny was there. Who am I missing? And the whole team was basically there, except for you, Kyle. You were not there. I don't know what happened. I think you actually had to work because the place is, for those that don't know, and put in perspective of then going to Saint Jacques. One of my next parallels. I'm very parallel today. It's like flying a Airbus and then flying a Cessna. Like, not that one is better than the other, but I'm talking about the sheer size and magnitude. Because whereas Saint Jacques is a nice, maybe 40-seat bistro? Am I wrong to say that?
Yeah, I mean, our seating capacity is at 80. I don't even know if we have 80 chairs in the building. It's tiny.
There's no way it's 80. Yeah. I mean, capacity possibly.
Yeah, that's
You probably comfortably seat 60 pushing it, right?
Yeah.
Compared to Whiskey Kitchen, where Aaron Lambert, who I've mentioned recently, he got me my Raiders, my Tuscan Raiders.
Oh, I
Raiders
saw that.
Shirt,
That was great.
Which I love him. He's a great guy and knows a ton about whiskey. And also, don't get him philosophizing on societal things because that will never end. But he's a great dude. He's had us I emceed one of your dinners that you guys have done, and Whiskey Kitchen, which is just around the corner from here in our studios, is massive, and then also does more numbers in a day that most restaurants do in a week, and dare I say some in a month. The volume is unbelievable. So maybe could you talk to us a little bit about what it was like in that experience for those years?
Yeah, I mean, it's kind of crazy. You pretty much, hit the nail right on the head. It's the sheer size and volume that you put out at Whiskey Kitchen is insane. And, I was there for 3 years, and it kind of skewed, the way I thought about restaurants, still to this day. You'll hear someone, what they did in a week for sales. And I'm like, we did that on a Friday just because,
Yeah.
And the other thing is, like, not only is it just big, but it's, concrete and steel, and it's just,
brick.
yeah,
Yes.
it's just, it's not like homey and comfortable like you would think. It's just like, it almost feels like a steel mill, like you're just pushing out all this product, and you got to make sure that the product is, good and up to standard, and that, the 400 or 500 guests that come through are all happy. And, so it was just a totally different monster, than anything I had worked in before.
It was a pleasure, like it was a welcomed new thing to enter the food culture here in Raleigh, though, because the way you just said it, that was the worst sales job I've ever heard.
But he doesn't work there anymore.
But I get what you're saying, especially from your perspective, because you're just like, I'm here to churn and pump out and do whatever. But Whiskey Kitchen has a massive patio. It's right in the center of downtown, and it has a huge dining space, but it also boasts the largest whiskey back bar, I think, of any place in North Carolina, maybe second to
Conkleton.
I was going to say the Angus Bar and the Whiskey Lounge, but whatever. They have a lot of whiskey.
Yes.
And a lot of really good whiskey.
Right. And so you can go there if you're a beverage enthusiast, and the cocktails are amazing. But you also can go there, the sneaky part that you guys did is you also threw out really dope food, which you didn't expect. You're like, oh, this is kind of like a bar, or almost kind of like a club. Not a club, but you can just go in there and then you sit down and you're getting really good, well thought out food.
I mean, it is in the name. They did call it Whiskey Kitchen. They didn't call it Whiskey Club or Whiskey Bar. They call it
Well, they
Whiskey
didn't call
Kitchen.
it Whiskey and Kitchen. I actually just thought of it as it's a whiskey kitchen. It's a
They don't-
kitchen for
they're
whiskey.
distilling and brewing whiskey.
No, they're
making whiskey.
they're making things with their kitchen is a whiskey bar, basically, is how I looked at it. But anyhow, so that must have been quite an adjustment, both going into that experience and then leaving it, and then now shifting to doing very thoughtful but more measured paced food at the bistro, Saint Jacques.
Yeah, I mean, it was, it is, like you said, the airplane, comparison. It is very different. And, St. Jacques is pretty much reso only. We do, accept walk-ins, but that's not foot traffic like, Whiskey Kitchen was. Whiskey Kitchen at any given time, you could seat, 20, 30 people that would just walk in, if there's a concert going on or something happening downtown. At St. Jacques, it's not that. It's, we know exactly how many we have on the books and what we're going to be doing. And, it's plating is, slower and a little more thought out, and, not tweezers, but almost to the point where each, garnish or each thing has its place on the plate.
Sure.
So
where you're touching each plate, but at Whiskey Kitchen, you're probably not touching each plate.
Right. You've got, so many stations, and you get this massive pass that, the food needs to go through. And again, it's your, size and volume that you have to do. And again, maintaining, good product.
Well, speaking of maintaining good product, I'll tell you something that helps us maintain good product here and keeps the lights on, keeps us energized. And you, in fact, asked for it this morning, and that's Gogh Coffee.
That's right. Matt, you're so smooth. Just like this sip of coffee comes from Leticia Lopez, La Única from Honduras. This particular whole bean that we received from Gogh is, as the name would inspire, it's from Finca La Única, Copan, Honduras. That's the... all I know is finca means farm, so there you go. That's as close as I get. But it's got this yellow honey processing in its production. But you get flavor notes like chocolate, maybe a little tangerine, cherry, Earl Grey. But you can learn more about it by going to joevangogh.com. Take a nice little swig, Matt.
Finca Única.
It's so great and masterfully brewed by Elizabeth over here with the Chemex, where it takes out all those impurities and just the harsh acids. So even if you're someone that doesn't love that really sharp acidic coffee, I think you can do fine with some Gogh coffee. Check them out, joevangogh.com.
So to answer your question, Kyle, damn right we have coffee.
Yeah.
talk to us a little bit. Even what's like the differences for cooking in Asheville and Raleigh? Like, what do people expect? What's the kitchen culture like? Is it different?
A little bit. It's not as drastic or extreme as I thought it was going to be. It is a little different. For one, there's not as many people with dietary restrictions in Raleigh.
Oh, really?
I mean, there is, but like in Asheville, it seems like every single ticket's got some sort of dietary mod on it.
Yeah.
There was like, obviously there's the gluten-free, the vegan.
In Asheville, it was more?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Oh, yeah, for sure.
My 3-year-old came home today and said, "Is there peanuts in that?" Like, where the hell did you learn that?
Oh, I can tell you where.
In Asheville?
Did you go to Asheville recently?
No. Not for a couple of years.
Yeah. So yeah, things like that, and also there was like always new things. In Asheville, you'd get someone that would come in, a guest, and they'd be like, "I have a nightshade allergy," and I'm like, "I don't know what that is." Like, I know the nightshade is a plant, but I don't.
Tom Brady.
Yeah, so like I have to like then research what nightshade is, and on the fly make a dish to make sure it doesn't have.
But also,
tomatoes, onions.
I was looking at this eggplant. It's very nondescript.
Yeah.
What exactly is nightshade? Like, there's not an overall. There is some sort of scientific term, but it's not like there could still be other stuff that we don't know has nightshade that is nightshade.
By the way, didn't we all have this exact same conversation 20 years ago when gluten came out? No one really knew what gluten was. So
maybe.
Because you can also use the term glutinous when you are like taking mashed potatoes and you over whip them.
They start to become gummy.
They're like, that's glutinous, but that's not gluten the way we're talking about gluten as a wheat source. But so people didn't really know what the fuck gluten was for the longest time. So maybe in another 20 years, nightshade will be very common.
Yeah,
and everyone will know what that means.
But that's a similar thing. Like, does anybody really have a nightshade allergy, or you just don't want nightshade because you don't want to age?
It makes me gassy.
Yeah, or it makes you gassy.
Yeah, I always wondered that too. People are like, I'm allergic to beans because it makes me fart. No, that's just the effect of those things, Yeah. But anyhow, so aside from your gassy, so you're saying
billions.
So the Asheville folks were a pain in your ass, is what you're basically saying.
No, not at all. Anyone in Nashville, love you guys.
That's what I heard. That's what they heard too. No, but I get it. So maybe they're more in tune with what their food is, because the food scene in Asheville is pretty intense.
Especially now, after these last James Beard Awards, it was on...
like a sweep almost. Sans Ricky Moore, who took the big prize in the area, I mean, they were knocking it out. Chai Pani, Curate.
Best restaurant in America.
Yeah, like this is pretty crazy. So kudos to them. They know what they're doing.
I mean, for sure. And, there's a ton of, fantastic chefs in that area.
But maybe that also speaks to, like, sure, ignorance is bliss, right? If you don't know you have an allergy, or you don't know, then you're not going to ask for it. But then it's also a woke culture awareness. So, like, I know good things to put in my body. Thus, I'm more apt to dine at, like, better restaurants, and thus can support those restaurants so they seem to thrive in Asheville, thus get the national recognition.
I mean, yeah, possibly, But it's just like, and maybe with those kind of restrictions, it pushes a chef to be a little better and think a little differently than they normally would.
Mm-hmm. It reminds me of when I worked at Wolfgang Puck. On the line, I was 21 years old. I was in the kitchen expoing, and Jesus, who's from Mexico, was training me. I was probably only there for a couple days or so. And we're working brunch, and all these tickets are coming in with and this is Santa Monica, California. You talk about woke and like educated on your food and what you want. This was to the nth level, right? Everybody had to be very precious about what their food was going to be for them. My truth on my plate, my family, all of this. The tickets would come out with so much red, meaning all of the special orders, right? And Jesus says to me, he's like, "Man, Mexico, nobody has allergies." And I go, well, come on, people have allergies. It's like, people don't have allergies in Mexico because people are hungry and people don't have options. They just eat what they're given. But here, Americans, you guys just have so much to choose from that I think you take it too far. And maybe there's a little truth in
There's
there.
a lot of truth
I think
in
there's
that.
a lot
Absolutely.
of truth in
I mean, just look at your kids, like, if your kids were hungry, they're not going to say, "No, I don't like salmon. I want mac and cheese." Like, you're going to eat that damn salmon because that's what you have to eat.
You're like, wait, salmon's on the table?
Yeah.
Like, that's a very expensive and nice thing to put in front of a kid. So that's a great thing. Yeah, but anyhow.
I mean, because like I personally don't have any, allergies, and grew up poor, and it was you ate what was on the plate, So like these whole, like, this idea, like, kids don't like greens. I love broccoli, like, growing up, stuff like that. Peanuts, like you said, now you mentioned your son, asked about peanuts. Like, that wasn't an option. Like, there wasn't, you don't eat it. It was, you eat all of it,
Yeah,
right.
So
now, of course, if your throat blows up and you have to go to the hospital, I suppose you wouldn't eat peanuts anymore. But
right.
And there's some validity to that.
Yeah,
like,
sure.
like, there's also, like...
No offense to those who legitimately have peanut allergies, so we have to use that disclaimer out there.
We're not saying that anyways, yeah. Genuine allergies are one thing, but I know a lot of people that will just say to people that they're allergic to something because they want it to be more important so that the chef doesn't mess it up.
Yeah.
They're like, oh, I'm allergic to tomatoes. It's like, I don't really like fresh tomatoes on a hamburger. I know that sounds weird, but like, I always get my hamburger without tomatoes. I don't like the texture on it. But I would never go so far as to say, I'm allergic to tomatoes. If a tomato comes on my burger and I see it, I just take it off.
Yeah.
And then that's my issue. Who cares?
Well, I think the other thing about that, and we're going off, I think this is a good tangent, right? Like,
we're talking food. It's food.
Yeah, because my wife is like gluten insensitive, right? So it's like, she's not allergic to gluten. She's not going to go to the hospital, but sure, would it make her feel less comfortable, more bloated? Yeah. But that's also I think for the people out there, like, yeah, if you want to change your diet, do it. But I guess when you put that on a ticket and you say I'm gluten allergic, then it's going to be the chef is going to be more aware of it and put less gluten in your food, I guess.
Well, yeah, not just that. I mean, if it's an allergy, especially with certain ones, like, we don't know if that person is actually intolerant, doesn't like it, or is actually allergic. So we've got to make sure everyone changes gloves, everyone washes, their knives, sanitizes the cutting boards, resets, everything.
So now they'll say like, oh, so is it celiac or it's just an insensitivity? Which I think is smart.
Actually, that's a good point, because I was just about to say, but who cares? The chef should be practicing that anyhow. But you brought up a good point, Kyle, because if it's like an actual allergy where someone's going to physically
need to go to the hospital,
then I understand changing the gloves, cleaning the knives, cleaning the cutting board and all that. But if it's just because you don't like them, then you're asking the kitchen to do a whole lot of extra work and delaying everyone else in the dining room for your little thing, where you easily could just either not eat it or take it off the plate or whatever. But maybe everybody have a little perspective on there's a cause and effect for everything that you do. And that's one of them that I really didn't think about. It's like, oh yeah, the kitchen does get
You got to
delayed.
reset the entire kitchen for that one plate,
Yeah.
That's crazy.
So,
but then again, the other side of it is then we wouldn't have JP's pastry.
Gluten-free.
Yeah.
I think we'd still have that, yeah.
You think we would still have that? Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, probably the most recent one that I've been coming across, and it's a nightmare, especially at a French place, is garlic and onion allergy.
Yeah.
I'm sorry, that's in everything. It's in all my sauces, all my stocks, the way we sous vide, our proteins. Like, I can't take it out. It's in there. And then they're like, well, I just don't like raw onions. That's not an onion garlic allergy, It's like...
Right.
Well, they do. There is something to that they affect your stomach in a certain way.
Yeah, and I'm sure, certain people...
Me gassy. Yeah,
certain
you're not
people
allergic.
We'll talk about it. Maybe we'll do like a allergic forum to really get like educated people here to talk and expert chefs on like allergies that can give us the down low.
And then we'll just hear how wrong we all were this whole time.
Probably, and how politically incorrect and insensitive we were.
Yeah,
so.
that reminds me of when I said, Matt, we should do a podcast about all the chefs that are going through like depression and chaos. And you're like, that sounds like a horrible episode. You're like, who would want to listen to that?
It's really uplifting.
I don't think you have enough space for all of the depressed chefs.
Yeah. Well, speaking about uplifting, so we're talking a little bit about Raleigh, and you've been mentioned on the show by call them the young guns or whatever, but Kevin Ruiz, Alex Ricci, and you were named on that and being like, oh, you guys kind of all think tank some things. What do you think that you consider yourself like one of the younger guns or like changing something as far as chef culture goes, especially in this town of Raleigh?
I mean, I don't know. It's hard to answer, to be honest, because I want to think that I'm still a young chef, but at the same time, I'm 33 and I'm like, I'm not that young anymore.
That's pretty young to be helming a kitchen.
Well, thank you.
Yeah, I think you're still young. I'll give you that.
Well, all right. Thank you both.
Yeah.
But as far as like, the three of us, like our relationship with each other, I mean, we do talk quite a bit. I actually was texting both of them this morning. But yeah, I mean, we talk a lot, stop by each other's restaurants, but most of the conversation is all about food and what we're doing and pushing each other. So it's a healthy, clique, if you want to call it. with that in mind, they both have very different styles than I do, very different plating than I do. So I can learn, from them, and then vice versa.
How so? Like, what's different plating? What's different styles?
So Alex has probably some of the most gorgeous plates I've ever seen.
Yeah.
Like, just the way he plates is spot on beautiful, and also everything on that plate has a purpose. It's not just a useless garnish, And so when I was eating there, I was just absolutely blown away. I've seen, his, plating in the past, and I was just like, this is just gorgeous food.
And when you're eating there, you're talking about Cucciolo Terrazza in
yes,
North
correct.
Raleigh.
Yeah.
Kevin Ruiz, on the other hand, is a mess. I'm just kidding. I was wondering where that was.
No.
Sorry, Kevin. I'm just kidding.
No, but Kevin has all these flavors that is just insane the way he mixes and matches, and I forget all the things that went into his mignonette when I had his oysters at his place, but it was something I was not expecting, but totally worked and was just mind blowing with the flavors.
Kevin throws down like some of the yummiest food.
Yeah,
like, it's crazy. You're just like, oh.
And that's
damn.
Bendito.
Yeah.
Also.
Bendito, yeah.
And then, my, focus is on, North Carolina product. I mean, almost nothing in my kitchen is not from, North Carolina. That's, something that I love and something I push, and it's kind of like the hill I'll die on. I'll not be able to do certain plates that I want to do because I can't get the product. Or I've got to then work close with a farmer to like convince him to, either grow the product or, send me the product. So yeah, between the three of us, working together and talking, it's building each other up. Alex helps us with plating, Kevin helps flavor, I help making it North Carolina.
Sourcing, yeah.
So what do you do for citrus?
That's a hard one. So I do have, obviously I have lemons and limes and oranges mainly for the bar. I found
Get your peaches out in Georgia.
No, I get my peaches from here.
Oh.
But yes, nice Beaver reference. So citrus is one of those things. It's kind of hard to work around, and it's something that I've constantly tried to pursue and try to find an alternative, and I haven't yet. But it's something that I constantly keep pushing and working on.
Is there anything else that you're like, I can't find this in North Carolina, or I need to work with a farmer to grow it, and that now they're doing it?
So my biggest one recently has been butter, because there's a ton of dairy farms, but I can't find in North Carolina butter. So
interesting, yeah.
I typically either buy from Milko out in Asheville or Ranlew,
Oh yeah.
And then I just make my own butter. Now that's not conceivable to do for everything in the restaurant, so I do have to buy butter. But as best as I can, I'm trying to make sure that the dairy I'm getting in is at least from here, and then I can work with that.
Yeah. So there you have it. That's something we need in North Carolina. Somebody niche that needs to make some North Carolina butter.
That is true. Yeah, that's interesting that you brought that up, because I can't think of a butter producer out here. They have those big, was it like the Amish butter that comes from Pennsylvania? I guess that's widely sold out in these areas. It's always delicious, but that's Pennsylvania. So yeah, it's nothing really close to here.
Yeah.
As long as we're talking about butter. Okay. Another thing. I don't really get the point of unsalted butter.
The point of unsalted butter?
Yeah.
It's mainly for baking. I mean, because if you're adding salt to something, you want to know exactly how much salt is in it. And when you have salted butter, you don't know how much they've put into that product.
Well, that makes perfect sense.
Mm-hmm. I always try cooking with butter at the house, and then Felicia will always be like, just olive oil, olive oil. Like, butter's not bad for you. Like, intense amounts of it, like scooping it with a spoon,
eating just
maybe.
butter.
But, like, that's good fat. That's good stuff to have, and it just makes everything taste delicious. Like, it's good. I mean, and yeah, you guys cooking at a French restaurant.
Oh yeah,
you'd be hamstrung without butter.
So much butter.
Yeah.
That's okay. So back to this culture thing for a sec. So you are a young chef. We're gonna say we'll put the line. I don't know. Whatever. You're a young
35.
Chef.
That's the
35.
line.
That's the line. It's
all right. I got 2 years.
What they say for women, right? If you're over 35, it's like a more of a dangerous pregnancy. That's not the right word I'm using for it. But yeah. Anyway.
Yeah. I was thinking more like a running back. If you're 30 with 32, you're done.
Yes, exactly.
Yeah.
Which is why, for all you Cowboys fans, sorry, Zeke Elliott's down. But anyway, there you go, Shannon Healy.
R.I.P. Marion Barber.
Oh, seriously. As far as culture goes, like, what do you think is different that you guys do, or what's some things that you coming up in this business have seen and you'd be like, man, when I helm my kitchen, we're not going to do it that way. We're going to do it this way.
One of the biggest things is the way we talk and communicate. That's going to be probably the biggest not necessarily that other chefs aren't doing it, but that's, at least I know for myself, that's, the biggest difference. Growing up in, and working in this industry, I've trained under some incredible chefs in my past. Some of them had different ways of, dealing with their staff. And I'm not trying to shit talk anyone, but there was definitely that anger, that rage, the belittling, kind of like a boot camp, like they want to break you down to then rebuild you. And it does create a certain type of character and a certain type of chef, and I'm grateful for that. But what I say and what I do in my kitchen is now, I don't belittle, I coach. Because people are going to make mistakes. We're human. Like, that's going to happen. It's going to happen every single day. It's going to happen from every single person. But how we react and how we handle that is really the determining factor. I can just scream at someone and tell them that they're a piece of shit and that they fucked up and it's all garbage. Or I can be like, hey, the reason this happened is, X, Y, and Z. And the way you fix it is by doing this. Well, do you think we can fix it now? No, that actually needs to get tossed. You need to redo it. Or yes, actually we can fix it. So that's the way that I try to run my kitchen, is with that kind of open communication and also working together and, again, coaching them and just trying to make sure that they understand what they did, why that happened, and how to, correct it and how to move forward.
What's interesting, though, about that, and like psychologically analyzing why we do these things, I've thought about this a lot. Like, I feel that in today's society, the reason that we have to give a reason, like, people need a reason to understand why they do things. Whereas back in the day, it was all about trust. And so if you worked in a restaurant where the chef was just in charge and they had years of wisdom and experience, and they told you, put a towel underneath your cutting board, a damp towel underneath your cutting board when you're doing this, you just go, "Oui, chef," and you do it. But now it's like, why would I do that? Well, because it's going to create some traction on the thing and it's not going to slip and you're not going to cut your finger or whatever. But it's just like being a parent or whatever. It used to be because I said so, because mom says so.
Yeah.
But that doesn't fly any longer. It's got to be more, well, I need to understand the reasoning behind it. Wasn't I, Elizabeth, just talking about the coffee terminals that, in the coffee, the espresso machine pod that you click into the machine, and everybody was leaving them on the ground, or not on the ground, but like not resting inside the pods, like holding up. And I'd asked a couple people, like, hey, make sure you keep those up, like keep them in there. And then they weren't doing it. And a couple days had gone by, and I'm like, yeah, you gotta keep the things inside, but I wasn't telling them why. And then finally I said, so there's heat that emits out of the espresso pods, and it's, if you don't keep the holders inside them, then it's just basically heating up the entire house, like turning on the air conditioning with the windows open, and it's just ruining energy and all that. But once I explained it, now everybody does that. Now everybody does what I asked them to do. And they realize it's like, yeah, it's not good enough to just hear from your boss to do something anymore. It's, why, boss?
Yeah.
So it's a little bit on both. Like, can't you just trust that the guy maybe doesn't have time to sit down with you and tell you all of the reasons why this is the way it is? Couldn't you just go, "Oui, chef," and then move on? But I guess that's not the world we live in any longer. I'm a little of a cranky old man. I get it. But the brevity was why things moved so quickly back then, and people just did it. Then eventually, when the shift is over, you can be like, "Hey, chef, why did we do that? Oh, it's for this reason."
It's so funny you brought that up, because that's what I was going to say is there are certain times when I don't have time to walk them through and hold their hand the whole way through, So there are times where I'm like, hey, you need to do it this way. If you want to know why? Ask me after the shift,
That's
so it's
good,
funny.
but
so
that's still a reason. You're still giving them a reason to be satisfied.
Just do it this way, the way I'm saying it, but we can talk about it. Like, I'm not saying it's off the table, So it's funny you said that, because I was like, literally going to be my next point was, every once in a while you gotta just do what the chef said, but I don't want them to think that it's just, a dictatorship.
I think it's kind of like this. I mean, you said it. It's like a parent. And kids now ask, and you need to give them a reason why it would be so much easier if you could just say, because I said so. But at the end of the day, and just like when you're coaching an employee, you're coaching them. And think about it this way, like the end result is, how many kids are fucked up today, even if they came from good homes and now are in therapy talking about how much they hate their parents, right? I mean, the percentage is astounding.
Sure.
And
there's also just more people going to therapy too, so there's just more.
Which is a great thing.
Which is a great thing, and it's more accepted now. There's not the stigma with therapy, which is great, but there's still a large percentage of those kids that hate their parents, even though their parents tried their best, whatever. It's because, think about how you're going to react to somebody who's a dictator versus somebody that's coaching you and explaining to you. And then you understand, like, okay, there's logic to that. And now I understand it. And as a leader, as a parent, it's a lot harder to choose that path of explaining than if you could just spank somebody or belittle them and be like, get the fucking work done, you know?
I will say, though, the devil's advocate in me is when you do explain why this is the thing, then you get the employee to go, I get that, but wouldn't it be better if it was like this? And you're like, so then at some point you're just like, well, it's just, this is the way we do it here.
Yeah.
Like, yes, I know there are 19 different ways to make a cocktail, like an old fashioned. And yes, maybe you could do it this way, but this is how we're going to do it.
Yeah.
And so, like, you do kind of end up getting your point across by just saying it that way.
Well,
but again, it's like, this doesn't need to be a conversation right now. We're in the middle of it.
yeah.
I just asked you to do it this way.
Well, that's like the fail safe to when you're explaining to a child who doesn't understand. Is like, well, it's my job to keep you safe, so that's how we're going to do it because it keeps you safe. It's like the closed conversation.
but sure.
No, I'm keeping you safe.
Well, I want to talk about another chef that he's old though. This one that I'm about to mention. I think he's over 35, probably not too much older, but
So really old.
But we love him, and I love making fun of him when I get a chance. And we were just, you and I, Kyle, had this silly Facebook back and forth, and you brought him into it. You're working with Blake Gottliff out there under the oak farm.
Congratulations,
who also,
just had his second child.
Yes, Mazel Tov.
Mazel Tov. Yeah.
And he wasn't on the podcast to have it done last time. Megan had to be on the show to give the baby.
That's right.
But
literal rite of passage.
Yes, exactly. But you work. This is also, Blake is a great connector of a lot of great young talent in the community. I mean, Matt's done events with him. I've done an event with him back in the day. He also was a line cook turned sous chef at Standard Foods when I was there. And he's done a bunch, and he's popping. You were asking about the best tabletop ice cream maker, and I had to just in an asshole sense, get a Paco jet.
Yeah, it's just that easy.
You're like, yeah, no shit, man. That's $9,000. I'm like, if you're serious, bro. And then I guess I didn't read the whole thing. You were doing this because you're doing a charity with him, and you're like, well, I don't have the money for that. I'm like, create a Kickstarter and call it Paco's Tears.
Absolutely ridiculous.
But you're doing that. And then, of course, Blake went in there and was like, we don't have the money for that, to which I quickly then took a picture of him in front of his BMW.
Oh, no, you did. How did I not see this?
I said, well, maybe if you didn't spend all your money on this, which I just love giving him shit because Blake does a lot for the community, and he's definitely asking for the community support. So at the same time, Matt and I were laughing when we saw that he had this brand new badass Bavarian Motorworks vehicle that he's sitting in front of. We're like, right there, you could have fed so many families with that beautiful BMW you have. But anyhow, so you are. You haven't already done this event, but you're going to do an event with Blake. Is that right?
I've done events with him in the past.
Yeah.
We did the autism dinner together. All I did was wash dishes. He was like, I need a dishwasher. I was like, I got you, man. So I was just washing dishes for that one. Then we did the Roots for Reese not too long ago together. And then I didn't know he was doing a dinner in the meadow until he had posted something, and then I had posted. So, apparently we're doing that one together too, which is pretty cool. But yeah, I mean, I love working with Blake. He's such a positive person to be around. And it's funny you mentioned the BMW. It's so easy sometimes when you see someone get something like that, you're like, oh, jealous or whatever. He's one of those rare people that you see and you're just happy for him. I just picture him riding around in that car just with a shit-eating grin. I'm like, yeah, I get it, man. You deserve it.
He does. It's a win. You have to celebrate your wins as much as possible. You've got to be motivated. Listeners will hear our next week's episode with Chef Dean Neff, and he was a guy that before the pandemic was like, I think I'm done with this industry. I think I got to get out of this. This is not for me any longer. And then it took the pandemic and some time away to where he just felt compelled to come back. And it's now he's stoked, spoiler alert on the podcast, but he has this brand new restaurant, but he had to have those wins. He was beaten down a little bit, and it's you got to get back into it and then find the love and whatever. And for Blake, hopefully even just something simple as just, I'm gonna do a little retail therapy, buy myself a cool little sports car or whatever. It's whatever it is, that's helpful and healthy, I think, to do that for yourself.
Yeah. Maybe keep it offline, though. I don't know.
That's jealous as hell.
I'm not jealous because I
You just put a deposit on a
brand new car that I'm very proud about, but that's for myself. So, Chef, what about what's like some of the most new dishes that you put on Saint Jacques and like that you're most proud of that you feel like you really speak to who you are as a chef?
Oh man, that's a tough one. There's a dish that it's one of my favorites. It's just it's a rack of lamb with a date demi-glace and daffodil au gratin, potatoes.
Oh yeah, you did that at the party at the dinner we did.
Yeah, I just love that dish. Just all the flavors and everything goes into it, and it just looks
the
gorgeous.
daffodil is like thinly sliced, stacked, right? Like kind of like lasagna style, if you will.
Yeah, and you so there's two different techniques. One is you cook the potatoes and then you stack them. Then you bake them off to get the crust. The other one is you cut them raw, stack them, cook them in cream, and then bake it off to get the crust. So it's kind of those two different techniques into one.
So what are you doing?
So I'm stacking them raw, cooking them in cream, but also adding the cheese to get the crust. So it's two different techniques put into one. So,
are you using North Carolina cheese?
Gotcha!
You
did.
Gotcha.
So I have North Carolina cheese on my chef's board, but not on that. That I do use Gruyere.
Okay, that's fair.
That's a French restaurant. Come on.
But I mean, couldn't like Goat Lady Dairy or Chapel Hill Creamery or Boxcar make a Gruyere? Theoretically,
they could. I could also, they could and could use it. I use all of those companies, on my chef's board.
Yeah, they do make great cheeses in North Carolina, I have to say.
I mean, let's be honest. You also have to be concerned about cost, right?
Yeah.
So you can buy Gruyere from some other places and tuck it inside.
This is not important.
But I mean, if you're going to do a cheese board, I get it. You're highlighting the cheese specifically. If you're going to put it inside of a component of a dish, sometimes you got to buy something that's going to be cost effective to fit there. You know? Yeah.
And and with the cost of goods, it's actually kind of funny with this whole shipping issue from getting stuff imported. Like I do have some stuff that gets imported from France and things like that, but for the most part, I didn't feel that as an issue because I was getting most of the stuff from North Carolina. So when everyone's like we can't get we can't get certain cheeses, we can't get our proteins, we can't get these things. I'm like, I'm not having an issue with that because it comes from the farmer an hour and a half from here, stuff like that. So that was actually one of those little benefits of
another great advertisement for buy local, eat local, right?
Yeah,
cool.
Hey, by the way, it's food related, but last night I watched the first episode of The Bear.
I was just going to bring that up when we were talking about what you're talking about, but if you haven't watched it, then I don't want to spoil it.
I've only watched episode 1.
Okay. It's awesome.
I think it was.
Have you watched it?
I've watched the first 2 episodes, and I don't know if I'm going to be able to finish it, if I'm being honest.
Oh, really?
It's almost like PTSD. I watched it.
A lot of chefs have said that.
I watched it, and it is so spot on and accurate. The writing in that and the way they did it is so accurate.
His cousin's Chicago accent is awesome.
Yeah.
That's my favorite part of the whole show. You know what gave me PTSD, and you're going to laugh, but it's fucking real? The Bob's Burgers movie.
I just watched that yesterday.
Okay, he's trying to pay bills, and he's got like a week to do it. And then, of course, a sinkhole right in front of the door to get into his place that's like 40 feet round. And he's like, that's going to be a problem.
Yeah.
And then he's just, the whole show is him trying to make money to pay his bills. And I'm watching this going, this is my life right now. Like, this is not fun. It's a cartoon. It was giving me so much anxiety. But I thought the grittiness, the truthfulness, the honesty, and even just in the first episode, the setup of the characters that are there. I've worked with all of those people. Like,
did they get into, I forget an episode. By the way, I can't believe I've watched something before you have. I feel very accomplished right now. I think it's in episode 2 when they talk about the dessert dish, the plum, and they talk about that.
I haven't seen that yet. No, but I like the whole idea of the family meal that the sous chef would provide, and that is kind of like a cool rite of passage. Actually, going back to the aforementioned Kevin Ruiz, upon him first starting over at Y Hill, that was one of the first things that Chef Kyle Fletcher threw in his way. He was like, all right, just make family for everybody. And Kevin threw down like a really cool Puerto Rican style dish that was inexpensive, and and it was like a rice dish, and everyone sat down and ate it. And like, what the hell is this? This is amazing. He's like, oh, it's just something I threw together. And like, from that moment on, we were like, yeah, can he cook more, please?
Yes.
Like, it was awesome. And that was kind of the example that's shown in episode 1 where she came in and just threw it down. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's how the fried chicken sandwich started at Whiskey Kitchen. Was I did that for a staff meal.
That's
and,
cool.
Yeah, just like cranked out a bunch of fried chicken and had my own like marinade and brine, my whole recipe. And then everyone's like, "This has got to go on the menu." I'm like, "All right, that's a slippery slope," but we put it on. It's like one of the best sellers and stuff like that. But yeah, that started.
What was the line the guy said to her on the show? So is this going to be impressive or delicious? And she said, "Is it delicious impressive?"
Yeah.
It's like, yeah, that's cool. So yeah, I like that. I love that type of stuff.
Yeah,
but
I'll say that show's good, but I can understand, PTSD. Anyway, man, anything to plug before we get out of here? I know, obviously, we did a wine dinner. We can do one again if you want, hint, hint. But any other things that you're cooking at or special menus that are coming up?
I'm always changing the menu, especially with the summer and new vegetables and stuff that I'm able to get in. So there's some new dishes. I'm actually gonna after this go to the restaurant and get those put on the menu and stuff like that. But we were talking about the three of us, Kevin, Alex, and myself, and so we've got something in the works. The three of us that we're working on right now. Not a brick and mortar, but something that you could read and learn some recipes and stuff like that out of. So
sounds interesting. Cool. A graphic novel. Sounds great.
Yeah. So we're thinking about we're working on a cookbook together.
Nice.
We're gonna
I love that.
We have a bunch of really cool ideas with those little. They're more tech savvy than I am. Little codes that you can take with your phone. And it would lead you to cooking videos or the website to make reservations and stuff like that. So
wow, that's cool.
Yeah.
That what's Rush's nickname? The Holy Triumvirate. Is that right?
Oh,
Rush,
the
band.
band. Yeah, I think so.
The Holy Triumvirate.
Yes, I guess.
So what would your three name be like?
I don't know. You guys,
we're the creatives, man.
Yeah, you guys talked to Alex about it, and said a click, and that's when this actually came about. Was this idea after that podcast? We were talking there, rather than trying to be like, no, we're not that. It's like let's embrace it and let's use it, to benefit, not only ourselves, our restaurants, our staff, the city of Raleigh.
Elizabeth, maybe we can put it. Our production assistant, maybe we can put it on a poll or an Instagram question. What should their names be?
Kevin Ruiz, Alex Ricci, and Kyle Teears. CAC. That is not delicious sounding.
No.
Anyhow, yes.
It's like, this is like cack. Like people say, oh, it's like crack. No.
Dude, that song slaps. Oh, that food cacks. No, that's not good. Those are not good things. Yeah, I'm sure we can come up with something better. Or we'll cut this whole entire part because it's so stupid.
No, this is great. This is good pod. Well, Chef, great to have you in studio.
Thanks for having me.
And look forward to seeing what else you come up with that you chef up over there at Saint Jacques. So for everybody out there, get yourself to North Raleigh, go to Saint Jacques French Cuisine, and you will eat and drink extremely American.
Thanks for listening to the NC F&B podcast. And if you've stuck with us this long, review us on iTunes and remember, 5 stars are encouraged.